banana singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin.
Welcome to Life is Good. I'm Heather McEwen, your ever-loving hostess, and guess who we have today? We all know Larry Bradley, an amazing poet, and he owns the Nevermore Bookstore on East Main, which is everyone's favorite hangout if they want to relax and really learn a lot.
True.
You know, if you come in here and somebody asks for a book and you sit and listen to you telling them what the book is about or where to find it, I learn a lot by doing that by osmosis and just listening.
Really?
Yeah, how did you get into this business?
Well, I worked for mental health for a number of years, and I decided I had enough of that and went into, I said one day I was going to open up a bookstore.
How many years?
It will be my 10th year, December 2nd.
Party!
Party!
Yes, but that's all right. Moving from out of state, Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania, Philadelphia.
And moving into a log cabin.
A very strange dynamic there, very strange. I never thought that I would end up in a log cabin. It was what I wanted most of all.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that, and I got a bookstore out of being up here for so long.
I think dreams can be true
So
in
I'm
Vermont.
happy. So I'm happy about that.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people who want to move here from out of state can't adapt to living our dream because
Right.
it's always insecure.
But I'll tell you something.
What?
I've been here for 24 years, and
Yes?
I'm still considered a flatlander.
Well, we are. I've been here 40 some odd years.
And you're still a flatlander.
I'm a flatlander, but I admit it and I keep learning. I think as long as you come in here with humility, you might be a flatlander, but you're more acceptable because we're not here trying to change anybody.
Right.
And we're listeners. Both of us are listeners.
Right.
So I think that really helps a lot.
And I think that helps just in general life, general living. I mean, you have to learn to be a listener,
Mm-hmm.
or you're missing everything.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing a lot of these days, which will affect the entire country, is banning of books.
Yes.
And you have an entirely banned book section
Right.
in this store. What are your thoughts on some of the
Well-
things that are happening?
Well, I notice the shocked look on some people's faces when they're not sure they want to go to my banned bookshelf because they're not quite sure what its intention is.
Mm-hmm.
Am I banning the books, or are the books banned and I'm selling them? And so they don't know what to do with it, but once they get comfortable enough to approach it, as if it were a dangerous animal, and see Anne of Green Gables,
Oh, my favorite book.
see Harriet the Spy, see The Lord of the Rings, banned.
It's scary,
They
isn't it?
want to know why, and I usually put a slip inside each book that tells you why they were banned. And I've kind of gotten away from that. I got to catch back up on doing that. But I think people are surprised, and they're a little more speechless than they would be had they not looked.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can lead a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So just because you're in a bookstore doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be looking at the books that used to be banned in Boston. But that's not the case here. Banned in Boston was something completely different. Banned, the word today, banned, means taking away some of our freedom. And a very smart man once told me, the First Amendment is not allowing you to speak so much as it's allowing you to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And once we stop hearing or reading words that a very small group might find offensive here or offensive there, or they're not the right topic, that's not their business.
No.
What I want to read, what I want to see or hear is my business.
And do you know how easy it is to ban a book?
No.
You just go in as a mother and you go to the school board, their next school board meeting, and you say, I found out my little Sally was reading this book and I don't want it in the library. It should not be read by a child little Sally's age. They take a vote and they eliminate the book.
Has that happened in Vermont that you know of?
That I don't know
It seems like it would be the last bastion of standing up for
of.
our
I know
rights
one
here.
happened in New Hampshire
Oh,
just recently.
is that the one that was just published? What was it?
It was Sherman Alexie, who's Native American, and it was his book. I think it was The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fight in Heaven.
And they thought Tonto was far too demonized as a Native American?
I have no idea what they thought. I
Well,
really don't.
Jay Silverheels played Tonto, and he later regretted the fact that he was given the Kimosabi, yes,
Kimosabi,
you know,
yes.
root of the vocabulary, yes, Kimosabi, and all of this, because it was very much a stereotype. But I haven't read that book that was banned, but if it's happened, if it's been a certain way, maybe he's revised it. And just because the word Tonto was in it, somebody would have done something like that in retrospect. But any banning, I think, is vile.
Oh, I agree completely. I mean, as a bookstore owner, I come across books that I know are banned. I know D.H. Lawrence will be banned for
What? Oh,
Lady Chatterley's Lover,
Oh, bummer.
Women in Love, Sons and Lovers. I mean, it's sort of a thematic thing. But I'm appalled at people who tell me what to do.
they motivate me.
I mean, when somebody tells me that I can't read something,
That's
and
it.
that's the thing, if you're banning books, ban them away, because they're just going to become bestsellers, they're going to make more money for everybody, because people are going to buy it wondering what the hell this was about.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't have the exact number, but I would say about 1,400 books have been banned in Florida this year alone.
Oh, Florida, don't get me started.
Yeah.
We can talk about Florida now a little bit. I know a lot of you are heading south for the winter. Well, somebody I know in Canada, a couple, went south for the winter and came back and came into my home on their way back and spewed a whole lot of prejudice that I didn't know that could possibly exist because they drank the Kool-Aid in Florida. And it's a hateful, narrow-minded, evangelical, toxic waste vocabulary.
That's not to say that all Floridians are that way.
Oh no, but they picked up on the
There's an
they
air.
picked up on the
They
what-
can feel
the-
it. You feel it in the
the
air.
zeitgeist that was there,
Zeitgeist, yes.
and the radio and the news and everything. Believe it or not, brainwashed this couple, and they came back spouting that. And I said, "You don't say that in Vermont." Whatever they said, that doesn't happen in Vermont, but it could. And another thing, I taught Holocaust studies, and you have a tremendous bunch of books on World War II,
I do.
and I love that. And I was talking to my grandson, and he and I have a difference of opinion politically sometimes, so I told him to study history so that it doesn't repeat.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not going to do that, and he's not going to listen to me, but I planted a seed, I hope, and I told him where you were. I said, just go and get some of the books from Larry's bookstore and check it out. Talk to Larry about that section of history. And if he comes in here, he'll listen to you.
Yeah, no, I'm completely for people coming in here and picking my brain. I have all day here with these books that I'm constantly looking around. I'm looking at things and asking myself, why isn't this one put forward? Why aren't people noticing this specific book?
Well, I come in here and I just say, I'm looking for something on this subject. And you say, yeah, but have you thought of this subject?
Yeah.
And I come in here looking for poetry books quite often. And you say, oh, but while you're looking at that one, I think you'll enjoy this one. And you've been right every single time.
Wow, well thank you.
So
Works for one person.
it works for everybody. I come in here, you've got writing groups.
Yeah.
What are you writing about?
Well, what did we write about today? We ended on a happy note. we were not going to read or write a Larry Bradley poem. We were going to write one that was happy. And I did a poem on Mr. Rogers,
Oh, I love him. And I was just talking about him last night.
who I knew. He used to come to my Christmas parties when
Oh
I
my
lived in
God.
Pittsburgh. And I was referencing the time that he was accepting an award, and he had said, I want everybody in the audience to think of the one person that got them to where they are now today. And I'll give you 10 seconds. And he looked at his wristwatch, and people started to laugh, and he said, you can go now. And there was dead silence for 10 seconds. People started to cry, people didn't know how to react. And then he said, okay, your time is up. So, his acceptance speech was much more than saying, yes, I appreciate your honor and your, you know,
He threw it back at the
support.
audience.
He threw it back at the audience, and the audience didn't know what the hell to do with it because they thought it was a joke at first. So you have this smattering of laughter, and then you can see in some of the celebrities' eyes, it struck them.
I'm picturing
And
the
the
person.
tears are just
Yeah.
streaming down their face.
Lucky are we who have someone who's changed our life or inspired us to the point of where we are today.
And that's what he wanted you to think about, because instead of spending his 10 minutes of, well, 15 minutes of Warhol fame, but 10 minutes of Mr. Rogers fame on, I want to thank my wife, I want to thank so-and-so, you know, going down this list, he
Yeah.
said, no, I want you guys to
To
all
think.
think. And that was part of, that is how that man was.
He was.
All the time.
I was talking to my friend on the phone last night, Beth Robbins Freeman, my best friend in Canada, and we talked for over an hour, and of course Mr. Rogers' name came up.
No, it's funny.
Because I said I only loved 2 shows for my children. One was Mr. Rogers, and the other was Pee-wee's Playhouse. And Mr. Rogers always left me with warm and fuzzies. And so my friend said, do you remember the time he was the first person to allow a black person on his show? I said, yes, they put their feet in a little
And
waiting
washed
pool
their
and
feet.
said, doesn't this feel nice? I said, of course I remember that. She said, do you know that the station threatened to end his show if he had that integration on his
Yeah.
show, but he did it anyway? And I said, that's what moves history forward. People who are willing to take a chance to do the right thing.
Right, exactly.
And in this day and age, unfortunately, some people are taking their chance to do the wrong thing and send us backward in time, which is why the anti-Semitism a little bit on the rise. You know, Black Lives Matter is extremely important, but often poo-pooed. The just say yes. No, not just say yes. Me too.
Me too.
That was not a just say yes. That was a just say no. Nancy Reagan, rest in
Nancy
peace.
Reagan and
Oh,
her
she
Just
drove
Say
me
No.
nuts in her little size 3 red dresses. So this is Ronnie. I could slap her upside the head. She drove me absolutely crazy. Forget politics. Nancy Reagan got on my nerves. And what's funny is I was just talking to somebody and I said, and he said, oh, you've had such an interesting life. And I said, it's because I didn't listen to Nancy Reagan. I've never tried drugs, but I say yes to everything because opportunities present themselves.
Yes, they do.
And you can't always hesitate and say, well, maybe that won't work for me. Dive in.
Mhm.
You do the same thing.
I try to.
Yes, you do.
I try to. I do say no to drugs, but I do also say yes to a lot of other things. And
Well, I'm glad they legalized marijuana because
that helps.
if my mother had a chance to take marijuana for pain, she may be with us today. She died 54 years ago. Nothing was legal back there.
Yeah.
But she died of pain, you know, kidney disease, and she was given opiates when I was 5 years old,
Mm.
and she stayed on opiates till she passed away a few years later. They were the only thing that worked, but they also put her to sleep for most of the day, every day.
Right.
And they took this gorgeous...
You're non-functioning alive.
Yeah, and they took this gorgeous intellectual woman and destroyed her. And it was all in the name of medicine. So I'm glad pot's a lot around today and legal.
Oh,
Because,
so do I. I completely agree with that.
yeah, I've never tried it,
I
but
think
if
it's
ever I had a
important.
lot of pain, I'd be there.
Well, I have tried it for pain, and it does alleviate.
Yeah, it has for all my friends too.
I mean, it's not an addiction. It's something that I will take on occasion
And you should.
because of my spine.
But you're far from spineless.
Far from spineless. Far from spineless.
What do you do in your spare time?
Read and I write.
Let's talk about your writing, because you are an international award-winning poet.
Thank you.
And this show will be aired. This is now October 26th. It should be aired this coming week. So you'll be watching it hopefully before November 1st. And if you are, and you'd like to hear a very dynamic poet perform, and there will be 14 poets performing, 7 French, 7 English, at the Haskell Opera House, which is a phenomenal venue for poets, one that's very, very astoundingly amazing for poets, because usually relegated to dark rooms with smoking and,
Right.
and fireplaces
But it's
and
very
brandy.
accessible as well.
Yeah.
Very
So
accessible.
tell me a little bit about what you might be saying there.
Well, I got some poems together. Excuse me, and I'm not sure which ones I'm going to read. I have 2 stacks. I have one in paper clips that says private, and I have one in paper clips that says public.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't know until I get up there which ones I will read. If I'm going to read the private ones or the public ones.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going, so I will see you there.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something about private and public. My inspiration, and someone who I thought motivated me not only to write, but to throw my guts on the plate. Just throw everything there. When I'm a writer, sort of, but if you write a short story, it takes an hour. But if you write a poem, it can take 15 to 20 minutes, because it's bare bones. And it gets everything out there instantly, and it's raw.
Well, that's what I like about the writing group. That's why I wanted the writing group to be very spontaneous. You do a prompt, you do, I don't know, the Bold Coast, and you do that for 10 minutes, and
Mhm.
then you read them. So there's no getting the tie adjusted and this jacket on or any. This is like raw poetry.
Pour it
Or
out.
raw fiction, whatever one you're writing, but whatever the Bold Coast does for you, that's what you write about.
Mhm.
And then we critique them, and there's some in-depth critique often, and never negative,
Never destructive.
never destructive. The negative critiquing is not designed to make you fear writing. I don't want anybody to be afraid of writing. And there's a lot of people who come in and they'll say, oh, I don't know if I can write. I don't know if I could do it. Just come and sit with us for 10 minutes.
If you can speak, you can write.
Exactly.
And what I used to tell all the people I used to talk when I was doing my paper for 30 years, I'd say, I expect something from every one of you today. And if you can talk, you can write. But a lot of people hamstring themselves in writing because they try and talk the way they think you want to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Or they dress it up and it doesn't sound authentic. But what you're doing is authentic.
Well, I went through a phase where I had a negative reaction to the way I was writing, and it stemmed from the writing workshop that I took. It was the first and only.
Oh, yeah.
It stymied me. I just thought, this is not for me. I'm not going to go to college to get an MFA. And the other part was my family. They had come across something I wrote.
Did they laugh at it?
They didn't laugh. They were offended by it. And that put a hamper on the way I wrote then. So my writing style, of course, has grown. I've gotten older. It's gotten older. But all it takes is one negative comment, one negative. It's not it's constructive negativity. I can understand,
Mhm.
but when it's just for the sake that, how dare you kind of thing.
Oh, I know, I've had that.
Or in my writing group that I had in college, all the woman talked about was her mind being in Manhattan. Oh, I just got off the plane, my mind's in Manhattan. This was a very combustible human being.
Yeah.
She was ready to ignite at any point, and you never knew what her mood was going to be. And I mean, I could tell you stories off camera, but there were
Too
some
bad you
things.
can't tell them on camera, because I really like to hear them with you.
Well, there was just some people in the writing group who they were novices,
Mm-hmm.
like I was. But I also knew what I wanted to write about, what interested me. And theirs was more of a memory that they had, and it was just racially unacceptable for what this individual wrote. You could not get away with it in any writing class, and this professor let it slide.
She thought that was artistic license?
And
Poetic license?
Yes, and I said, I think that there's a problem with her title.
What do you think she should have been called?
Well, it shouldn't have been called The Blacks Are Coming, The Blacks Are Coming. So, but it wasn't, it was the N-word. And this professor just sort of said, I said something about the title being inappropriate. There's nothing inappropriate in writing.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought,
We're
well,
just
okay.
talking about censorship and banning books. Continue.
Yes, well, I'm not censoring her.
No.
I was in no way censoring her. I thought there was another way to say what you want to get across. So you have that. So in that sense, maybe I was banning her poem.
But you can educate and elevate, too.
That's what I tried to do by saying it was inappropriate.
There's a time and a place when those words happened in, Tom Sawyer.
Right.
Hi.
Hi, we have a guest coming onto the show right now, and he belongs to Larry. Oh, he just left. Was it something I said? Please come.
Come on in.
I'd love to talk with you, too. I'm Heather.
Hi.
Heather.
I'm Rick.
This is
How
Rick.
do you do, Rick?
Good.
Into every life, a little Rick must fall.
What was that?
Into every life, a little Rick must fall.
Oh, wow. I never heard that one.
All right.
She just made it up.
I made it up. My last beloved was a Rick. It's okay. It's been a long time. But anyway, I'm sorry. I will keep your hubby long. I just keep on talking for just a second. All I can say is if you can get to Haskell next week, we have an evolved gentleman here who can really write poetry, and it'll make you think. It'll make your heart beat, and it'll elevate you. And
As will yours.
oh, yeah, I'm giving one or two also, but it's all right. I'll pass with the popcorn. My really big thing is that Leonard Cohen opened my writing soul, and I went to Greece to look for him when I was in my 20s because he was doing the islands. I went to all the wrong islands. I lived around the corner from his first cousin in East Berkshire. They're from Montreal, but they had a place in East Berkshire where I lived, and went to there for dinner. And then his niece was on my show. I had concerts in my yard, and she was a folk singer with bare feet, and I came so close to him. And then his last album was Heather, not about me, and he died on my birthday.
Wow.
So I wrote a poem, and that's the one I might talk about, homage to Leonard Cohen, because if you don't meet a poet in your life, you don't just read poetry, and it will give you the nerve to put down on paper what some people find difficult to say face to face. And it's a very big release, and it's a very big joy. It's really orgasmic to write something that can get something out of you.
Elevate you.
Elevate, yeah, and just flush it out so that you can start another one. And believe it or not, for Leonard Cohen, I wrote that poem homage, I published it, and I got a text from somebody in California saying, Heather, why didn't you tell me you felt this way about Leonard Cohen? I'm sending you a picture of the chair in my backyard where he sat every afternoon. He was one of my best friends. Heather, I wish I'd known.
Aw,
One of my friends was one of his best friends, but I thought, well,
small world.
next lifetime. But in the meantime, thank you, Leonard Cohen, for anything you've given me, and thank Larry Bradley for what he's giving me in the flesh, modern day. Wonderful poet, wonderful man, wonderful bookstore. Nevermore Bookstore. Address?
100 East Main Street.
Yes, right by the FOE, which is a federal organization or
Of
phenomenon.
the Eagles.
Of
The
the
Eagles
Eagles.
Club.
The Eagles have landed. I love it here, and it's open from 11 to 3.
Nope.
Did you change?
Yeah, I'm open from 8 to 2.
Get out!
8 to 2, Tuesday through Saturday.
I knew it was Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday and Monday, no store.
I know, that's my weekend.
Yes, I know. And I will let you get started on that now, because this is late Saturday afternoon. So I love you very much,
I love you too.
and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Life is Good, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah.
Rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight.